Okie dokie. Oh, just in time, Martha. Good timing. Hey, Martha. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our September meeting. We do have a packed agenda tonight, but we will start, as we always do, by acknowledging the Arapaho, Ute, and Cheyenne tribes, the traditional custodians of the land on which the Police Oversight Panel and Polder Police Department operate, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. I'd like to welcome y'all and any public who might watch this after or tune in a bit to this meeting. Thank you for being here. We're going to make a lot of really important decisions today. And I guess since we don't have any members of public, we can skip over that. For anyone watching this after, just a reminder, if you would like to, if you're a member of the Boulder community and need to submit a complaint of an officer in the police department, you can contact us at our web address. That's bouldercolorado.gov/services/police-oversight, or our panel email, which is published on the website, but I'll read it out here as well, which is policeoversight.panel@bouldercolorado.gov. That email goes straight to the two co-chairs of the panel, one of which is me. My other co-chair, Ariel Amaru, is not with us this evening, so I'm flying solo, so bear with me if I'm very clicky and eyes all over the screen. But let's read through our agenda for the evening. We will start with approving our last month's meeting notes, and then we're going to go through, I'm going to give a brief presentation on the selection process for selecting our panel members. That is also going to include our vote this evening for the two nonprofit organizations to serve on the selection committee. And then we'll pass it over for committee reports to the Community Engagement and Communications Committee, then the Governance Committee, then the Legacy Review Committee. Then we're going to get a report from the monitor, including a report on outcomes of case reviews and our monthly case statistics. We will also tonight then select cases to review that have been complaints to review that have been recently submitted. And then we'll open it up for public comment, of course, at the end. Panel members, be advised, we will also have an executive session this evening as well. So we will stay on after, once we've let the public go, for a quick update. Elsewise, if we are all, see, clicky. If we're feeling good, we will just jump right in. So for approval of the meeting minutes, Joey sent those out to us in our email. Does anyone have any proposed revisions to the minutes that we're taking for our August meeting? Just give that a sec. Anybody? Hands? Cool. Could I, in that case, I'll call for a vote to approve last month's meeting notes just by a show of hands. All in favor of approval? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you much. The ayes have it. Meeting minutes approved and documented for history. So up first tonight is one of our most exciting, stressful, and wonderful parts of our upcoming work. And so I'm going to share my screen with y'all. Give me just a second. Joey, do I have? Yes, I do. Thank you so much. So y'all don't have to look at my notes, just the Prezi. Come on, friend. There we go. Okay. Can y'all see that all right? Thank you. Boom. Okay, so update on panel selection. So as y'all know, Ariel, Joey, and I have been working hard on just a lot of fact finding, figuring out doing all of our due diligence of what's in the ordinance, making sure we've checked in with all of our constituents, and which included some updates with you all. And now it's really time to hit the ground running with our 2022 new panelist selection. And so just kind of to review some of the key factors that we are working with here, we are looking for 9 nominations to send to City Council. That's 5 new panelists and 4 alternates. And so for our selection committee, this is straight out of the ordinance. We are looking for 2 representatives from nonprofits serving Boulder, and we're going to be voting on that today. We're also going to need to put 2 representatives from our panel onto that selection committee. And then the selection committee of those 4 people makes the final determination of the nominations. So this is their process. This is their evaluation and their determination to make who the new panel members will be, and then to send those nominations off to City Council for approval. We do need to have the panelists in place by the end of the year. And so that's going to mean meeting a December 1 due date of getting the memo to City Council for a December 15th approval. And so that means also working around any holidays and end of year, academic year challenges. We also have committee leadership related to recruitment, and we're going to be getting into all this in some other slides. Of course, we have our governance committee, which is charged with orientation and onboarding. And then, of course, we have our community outreach and communications committee, which is responsible for recruitment communications. And we have started some communications along those lines. But it's also time for us to start following up with those committees for some more intense study and work. We're also want to be really mindful of our current panelists' workload. We do need to continue our routine case reviews. Of course, we have the NACOL conference coming up right around the corner. Thank you, Hadassah and Martha and Joey, who will all be attending that week-long conference. We have community outreach plans as well. So we have very full plates while trying to get this work done. And one of the real positives, though, is that we want to benefit from the lessons and work from the previous recruitment cycle. So the implementation team has done this once before. So we can benefit from that. We can build on that, and we can do better and go a little bit farther while also not overstretching ourselves. And so tonight, we're going to be voting on the 2 nonprofits to have representatives on that selection committee. And we also need to approve this plan and this timeline, because we need to prepare our public facing materials, and we need to hand the selection committee the structure it needs to move forward. So this is really a final chance to get feedback in before we approve this and then hand this, this process over to the selection committee. And so the timeline, and I want to emphasize, we did share an initial draft of the timeline a couple weeks ago. After some discussions, and primarily our discussion with Sean Ray, we did make some adjustments to this timeline. So this is the most updated timeline, final timeline for our plan for the selection committee. And so tonight we're doing that selection process. By tomorrow, panelists, if you want to serve on the selection committee, please email RAL and I. And then by September 12th, we're going to do an email over vote to vote for those 2 panelists that will serve on the selection committee. And then we will be reaching out to those nonprofits to make sure we've identified the 2 representatives from the nonprofits to serve on those on the committee. And then we're going to kick off the selection committee with the co-chairs and Joey and hit the ground running. Ooh, come on, friend. Oh, sorry, skipped ahead, didn't I? So then for our recruitment and application period from September 12th to 14th, that's about 15 or 5 weeks, we're going to be building the recruitment, outreach, and application, which is going to include a lot of public communications, our website, all that business. And then we're going to launch recruitment communications to start bringing people in. And then our actual open period for receiving applications is going to be September 24th through October 14th. So that's 3 weeks. And we'll also plan on having ongoing recruitment communications through that timeline as well. So that's, really we're going to be working on communications from the 12th through October 14th. So a month of pretty solid work. For application consideration process, then from October 17th to 28th, the selection committee is going to review applications and select its top candidates to continue. Then from the October 31st through November 7th, we'll do the Zoom interviews with the selection committee. And I put Zoom interviews in there. I should put a caveat. The selection committee does get to determine how those interviews should be held in the most accessible and inclusive way. But since they were Zoom interviews last year and we are still struggling with the pandemic, I am putting that out there as an option. And then on November 15th, this is new, and we're going to talk a little bit more. one of the recommendations we're making is to have an actual in-person event with the top candidates, the selection committee, and the panel to help inform the final decision process. And I'll talk more about that in just a sec. And then finally, November 18th, the selection committee will have its deliberations and selection complete. December 1st then is that memo to council, and the 15th is going to be our final vote on the nominations. Oops, sorry, y'all are blocking part of my screen. There we go. With the panel, selection committee, and the monitor, how are these three components going to work together? So first of all, just to review, the selection committee has the final determination of nominees to city council. They get to make that decision. They will also update the 2021 application criteria to what they want it to be this year. They will run the consideration process. They would determine how panelists will offer feedback at each stage of the consideration. And this is an important one. We would request that the selection committee create an efficient and structure to receive and consider pretty substantive feedback from all of us outside of the committee to make sure that if we want to assist and give opinions in this process, that there is an opportunity for us to do so. And then there will also be check-ins with the co-chairs about coordinating other efforts in the panel. And so that process of feedback, anything they need from the committees, the co-chairs will make sure to facilitate that process just to make sure we keep the balls in the air, the balls rolling in the air and rolling through the air. I'm looking for the smiles just to make sure everyone's listening. Make sure we're moving along. So for the panel, we will be responsible for carrying out recruitment communications. We will participate as we're available in offering feedback to the selection committee, and we will be preparing onboarding and orientation materials for the new panelists. So there is substantial work for us to be doing while the selection committee is doing its work throughout this process. And then finally, the monitor is going to will work with city staff as needed to coordinate our communications, but otherwise will not participate in the selection of new panelists. And this is in the ordinance and pretty important. The monitor cannot participate in that process. And so we need to be cognizant of that and proceed accordingly. So we have some big pitches for you, did our fact finding. Here's what we were thinking. This first one is the co-chairs and Joey, after a great conversation with Sean Ray, who was part of the implementation last year, who I think all of you have met, we came up with this idea of the recruitment consultant. And considering our workload, considering the amount of work that's going to go into this selection process, we're recommending that we hire a recruitment consultant to support the selection committee. And this person would handle the technical processes, the whole process of the selection. They would provide their expertise in recruitment and evaluation processes. However, they would not have any voting rights on the committee. So they could not determine process. They would not have a say in evaluating anyone. It would be a technical role just there to support the technical side of the process. And specifically, we'd like to recommend Sean Ray. Joey's already reached out to Sean Ray, and they're very excited. Sean Ray, they built and ran the process in 2020 that brought us all here. They have just the most extensive expertise in evaluating applicants. Joey and I got lunch with Sean Ray, and my mind was just imploding with just how much knowledge and passion he brought to the process in 2020. And he was part of the original implementation team that formed us. And he just really demonstrates exemplary leadership and advocacy, in my opinion. And so that's our first big pitch is to bring Sean Ray into this process to support the selection committee. Joey, I was going to just pause there to see if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the reason Sean Ray is our recommendation and why he's such an attractive applicant for this, or candidate for this position to help us out with this, he runs admissions processes for various universities. And so he is very, he's very familiar with like how to ensure all candidates, get fair consideration, fair, robust, full consideration, and make sure the entire process is fully documented and defensible and transparent. So he has all the right experiences and expertise professionally, but also they have the expertise of the past with the panel and knowing how the implementation team operated. So just wanted to add that part of it, of their background.
Thank you. Yes, and just a quick clarification. I do believe Sean Ray's pronouns are they, them, just for future reference for all of us. Thanks. And so big pitch number 2. And this idea, we can't take credit for it. It was Sean Ray, is this in-person event with the candidates. And this is something we need to decide on now so that we could make sure anyone applying could get this on their calendar. And basically, so when we were appointed, we did it with applications and Zoom interviews. That's how we were evaluated. For this year, what we'd like to do is a third step, which is this event where the panel, this current panel, the selection committee, and the top candidates can all meet together, and we can run some activities to gauge, how they interact with each other, how they contribute to teamwork. One idea was to do breakout groups to work on a real policy review. So something we've talked about in the last 2 years, to bring that to them and see how they work the problems together, and to use that information to help us make our decision. And so then some following action items on this. The co-chairs and the community outreach communications chairs will need to meet to discuss communications plans. I know Taisha already has some updates for us this evening, and you've already have some emails out from Taisha about an upcoming event that we can work together on. The co-chairs also need to meet with the governance chair to discuss onboarding and all those tasks. And for both of those, I really want to emphasize for all panel members that we want to make sure this is an all hands on deck initiative. And so we should be expecting to hear from the chairs of these committees, asking for our assistance, asking for our buy-in, and ready to jump in and to support this work so that this work doesn't fall entirely on them to accomplish. This is for all of us to work on together. And also coming up, the co-chairs are going to be calling for volunteers for our next panel co-chairs, because we want to have that selection completed in time for the finalist event if we move forward with that, so that we can introduce the 2 co-chairs, 2 new co-chairs that the incoming panelists would serve under, basically. And just a reminder that the co-chairs are 1-year terms. So Ariel and I are coming up on our sunset days as panel co-chairs, and we are retiring in December. Elsewise, that's the pitch, that's the plan. Why don't we take a minute if anyone has any feedback, or specifically if there's questions. Let's start with questions. If anyone has clarifying questions, just raise a hand.
Oh, sorry.
Go for it, Sarah. Yeah, no one else is talking. Thank you, Sarah.
Trying to follow directions. It's not really in my wheelhouse. But questions about your 2 pitches. We have budget to pay Sean Ray. Yes.
So do you want to?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't asking for
Thank you.
a volunteer level of compensation.
No, it's his going rate for
Okay.
Yeah.
And for pitch number 2, which is de facto work, are we setting aside budget, if we choose to do that one, to compensate all people who come?
That is a really good question. Yeah, we haven't asked that. Yeah, Joey?
It hadn't come up. We didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't even come up as an idea. What would that look like potentially, you think?
I mean, I don't know, probably equivalent to 1 month of a panelist. It would be the easiest. But what this looks like to me is, has anybody had to have a job interview where they ask you to do like 8 hours worth of work or whatever? That's what this looks like to me. And since we do in fact compensate us, we should do the same, in my opinion.
You mean for the panel members or for the applicants or
The
both?
applicants.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because this is de facto work,
Yep.
like in person.
I see the point. Yeah. I would think we have the budget for it. Depending on how, yeah, we would have the budget for it. I was going to say, depending on how many sort of final applicants we're looking at. But I think either way, we could do that. I think that would be allowed. I'll just have to double check with my supervisor. But if folks agree with that, I can look into that for sure.
Yeah, any follow-up thoughts, y'all, on that? Thank you, Sarah. We had not considered that. That's fantastic.
So what about the panelists? If they're going to be involved in this, they're going to be spending the extra time too.
Mm-hmm. I think that'll be part of my ask. This is the additional evening.
Well, I mean, I would support it, but I think giving somebody a day's worth of work a month is a lot. Like, that seems like a big difference, but it's a good idea anyway, especially if people are like needing to find babysitters or whatever to participate in whatever event we're doing.
Right. I think for me, that also raises the question, because yeah, Chico mentioning panelists too, is what that means for the two representatives of our nonprofit organizations. They're participating in this process, they're applying their expertise and judgment. Is that beyond the capacity of a volunteer role as well?
Let me bring that to my supervisor and see if we can pay all three entities.
Panelists.
Sounds like the days of exploitation are over.
So yeah, why don't we leave it there then? Yeah, Joey, if you would ask Amy, and if you want to loop me and Ariel into that too, we'll look into it. That's the way the journey goes. Any other questions, clarifying questions? Non-clarifying questions are also applicable too. Great. So in that case, any feedback or recommended changes?
I really like the in-person at the end because I feel like you can only see so much via Zoom.
I agree. Yeah.
I think an alternate view of the in-person event, because I know we still need to do it, is that, like, y'all, none of us know what we're doing on purpose, right? And I think the discussion that needs to maybe be had about the in-person event is, what is our goal with having people prove that they have special versus a point of view that maybe we may be looking for different points of view, which is what we did. We just told people what we thought, right? Versus prove you can have a good conversation, which can introduce some biases. Prove that you have certain skill sets, which can introduce some biases. Like, I like the idea. I'm afraid that we will be maybe over-indexing on finding people who have special skill sets and versus potentially aligned with the mission of providing X, Y, and Z for the community. So something also to think about. When you bring people in, by definition, you introduce some additional biases.
Yeah, I think that's really well taken. And I think in particular, I think part of it is removing the expectation of proof entirely from the process. And so, you know, I think if I can I can channel what I learned from Sean Ray, is that, and actually having gone through this process myself, and so this is how the arts program I was in at CU Boulder found its ultimate studio class, was this kind of an exercise after applications and interviews. So all those traditional markers, the in-person opportunity is also the opportunity for people who struggle to jump off the page or struggle to jump out in a intense interview process to really shine, to show their skills in a group setting, in a collaborative setting, where they may not excel in like an interview. And so I think that's all to say, Sarah, to your point, is that we have to make sure all three of these steps are working together, that we're looking at the total whole of a person. And I think what clicked most for me was, in the end, this is the expectations that, sooner or later, all 10 of us or 11 of us have to get together and accomplish something, and to make that a little less of a surprise after the commitment, to see what that looks like together, I think is the kind of the big picture. And I think your point is taken, is that we have to check our biases, and we have to make sure we're not going into that process, with the checklist, that we're going in it with the open mind of finding the right grouping of 11 people that best serves this community.
Yep, fair points.
I mean, I think whoever picks, volunteers to be on the selection committee will be, cognizant of, like, we're not picking pedigrees. This is designed to be average Joe in here, coming in and hearing a situation and informing the people's perspective. So
yeah,
I'm hopeful that that'll be managed in the long run of it.
Yeah, Hadassah.
Thanks. Yeah. I will say this definitely does feel more like an orientation event, as opposed to necessarily part of the interview process. Like, I love it, but I yeah. I feel like it might be a lot, and B, like, because we're gonna want to do something then when we have people on the panel, and like and to me it sounds, again, it sounds like an orientation event. Like, we can use this as a chance to work on a policy, if that's what we're talking about, and do a real life orientation in terms of, here's the rubric that we use, here's how we would go through the process, here's, the things that we would consider,
I think part of that too, now that you say that, Hadassah, is it occurs to me, I don't think we want to take up too much time of like a sit and listen to the panel, but I think that is a good opportunity for us to give candidates a better idea of the panel and panel work, at least an overrun orientation, to help them decide if they want to accept if we make an offer to them. And so I think, to me, it sounds like a yes and, yeah. Yes and, yeah.
I like the idea of bringing in the consultant. So that sounds great. Just thinking about the number of interviews, or the number of potential applicants. Yeah, just bringing in the consultant, sounds like the best idea. And on the other additional steps, I'm not sure about that one. I do like the original process. And it was nice being able to go back and see, you know, everyone's individual interviews on the website. And yeah, we just did the best with what we had, you know, at that time.
Yeah, Chico.
Yeah, I like the idea of the bringing in a consultant as well. And speaking, just adding on to what Hadassah said, I think going through exercises with interviewees, that's more of an overkill. I think just getting to them and discussing what giving them a broad overview of what the panel does and the expectations are should be enough. We leave the exercises and all those to the orientation stage.
Chico, sorry, just really quick, Chico, to make sure I understood. Are you saying then that we would still keep, you would still like us to keep the in-person final part of the application process?
Yes, but not going through the exercises that I think I had. Just in person, discussing what the panel does, what the expectations are, that leaving it at that. All those other exercises and all that can come into the orientation phase or stuff like that.
And I think specifically to clarify is that the idea of the exercises was specifically to evaluate how candidates work with each other. And so not as an orientation exercise, but as an added tool in the final decision. Taisha, I see your hand too.
Thank you. I would agree with others as it relates to the consultant, and it also speaks to just a larger question around what is our budget for the panel and what other ways can those budgets be used. I think there's been several pain points that could have benefited from additional technical and administrative support. So that's just something that I think having some more transparency would be helpful. But in this case, I do think just based on the workload and current loads and complexity of running that kind of process, that having a consultant would be great, and having somebody who has the expertise from running it before, having them on our team is wonderful. I do have some concerns around just the time and availability for an in-person for the last final row of interviews. Again, it also depended on how many candidates. I could easily see that going 3-4 hours. And that's in addition to our committee work, the main work, the case reviews. And so just very mindful about that. Perhaps we can do it from a similar perspective as the ways we do case reviews, where we just try and get a couple of panelists who maybe aren't on the committee to be in that final interview, so that it's not everybody having to try and coordinate around our schedules. And again, it really is contingent upon how many final candidates there are. But my preference would be to support the selection committee that includes 2 co-chairs and, just to create more flexibility considering the current workload. Thank you.
Okay, cognizant of time, any final thoughts? Boom, okay, let's do this in pieces then as we go. So first things first, let's take a vote on approving the timeline. And I'll make a caveat that does not mean approving the final event proposal. Here we go on this slide. So that does not include this November 15th date, but the rest of the timeline, all in favor of this timeline, hands up for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you, Sarah. And that's a majority. So the yeas have it. So the timeline is approved. Big pitch 1 Let's start with just recruitment consultant period. So approving the plan to move forward with a recruitment consultant. Hands in the air if you approve. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the majority has it. And then hands up to
just Daniel, note that I'm using the hand raise sign because I don't have solid internet.
Yep,
yet.
I see it. Thank you. So next up then is specifically Sean Ray as our recruitment consultant this year. Hands up. Yay. And that's an approval. Thank you so much. And then next up then is the Big Pitch 2, which is an in-person event, which would need to be for our timeline. There isn't a lot of wriggle room. It would be November 15th. So hands in the air if you would like to move forward with the in-person recruitment event. Sorry, the in-person, sorry, you guys, event with candidates.
Hey, Daniel, I have a question. Is it possible to consolidate the monthly meeting and the interview in one event or one session, so that I'm just trying to get some economies of, is that at all possible, or does the timeline not allow for that?
I would say no, just because cognizant of how we use our public meetings. One, since we have so much coming up in our meetings, and also there's going to be more coming that in our executive session, I would say no, that is not an option. We would want to separate this date. This is specifically a weekend date as well. Saturdays,
okay.
which we've used traditionally as our training. So it was carefully selected as an option. But if we are looking at November 15th and saying, you know what, that's not going to work, then we should put a down vote on this. So hands in the air for, yeah, Hadassah?
November 15th is a
It's a Wednesday.
Tuesday on the calendar.
Ooh. How did we
Is that
mess?
right? November 15th.
Give me just a
Tuesday.
second.
Okay.
2 co-chairs and a monitor, and 1 missing calendar. Sorry, we were looking at, because we wanted to do interviews this November 13th. Thank you for that catch. November 12th. Because the 13th is right. So sorry, thank you, Hadassah. Yeah, that was November 12th. So looking at that Saturday. To make sure then, the idea being that we would make sure the selection committee would have plenty of time to get our feedback from both the initial process and this one. And I'm just triple checking that while we're sitting here.
Okay. While you're doing that, so I'm not available on that weekend. I have a work trip. So
Great. We'll approach panelists.
will we need to get? Oh, I was just asking, will we need to get quorum in order to make that date work? Or is that what you're asking now?
Yeah, so we'll approach panelists' availability, I think, later on this. And so if we need to look at another date, let's do the November 12th as tentative. And we can let the selection committee do the final process to make sure that, well, no, because that's right, because we have to publish this in the application.
Wouldn't it be like selection committee quorum? Like, I think that's a different thing, because the selection committee people each get a vote. That's a different thing, isn't it?
Correct. I think we'd run into trouble if a member of the selection committee. So the biggest thing is that the selection committee, I think all 4 would need to be there, since they all have to make the decision. We would not all necessarily be there, since we don't have to make the vote. And so I'm thinking then we can set November 12th as a tentative date. But when we reach out to the selection committee on the 12th, the first thing we'll need to ask them is what date that event could happen if we approve it. So let's do this for a vote to keep moving, since it is already 7:15. Let's by show of hands approving an in-person event with candidates. with the final date to be selected, but knowing it is going to have to happen the same week as November 12th, just to stick in the timeline. Cool beans. Hands for approval. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, Hadassah, that was right. We got 3. Boom, not approved. So we will not do an in-person event with the candidates. So that's that. Give me just a second to make that note. And I think that's it then. Boom. So that's the selection process. Let me take down. Yeah, Martha.
So I just want to understand if I'm like, that date's gonna happen. It's just gonna be virtual. Like that's it. That's my understanding, or is that wrong?
So no, so then we will just not do that third step. It'll be the same process
So
we
just
all did.
steps.
Applications and Zoom interviews, no opportunity to evaluate how the candidates would work together before the final decision.
Okay. Okay, I was just wanting clarity.
Totally. Thanks, Martha. Boom. Okie dokie. So next up, we need to choose our 2 organizations. Give me half a second to switch documents. So just to review for anyone who watches this later, we did do a full media release, got some good media coverage too, in my opinion, of our upcoming recruitment cycle. We also contacted, I think, over 30 nonprofit organizations here in Boulder. And we had 3 organizations respond in the affirmative that they would like to volunteer and send a representative to serve on the selection committee. And so the first, and so I'm just going to read them out, and I'm going to also read out, I'll just read their names. You all have reviewed their missions and everything. So the first is Boulder County branch of the NAACP. The second is Bridge House. And the third is Amistad. And to choose our 2 organizations tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to go one by one. Y'all are going to get 2 votes, and you can only vote once per organization. So you will vote 1 vote for each of the 2 organizations you would like to see. We do need to do this, in case you didn't see my email last week, we do need to just do this publicly, not on a secret ballot. This has to be open. And so does anyone have any questions before we move to voting? Oh, sorry, one more thing. Ariel is not with us tonight. However, I will be voting as her proxy, just to make sure that the entire panel is involved in this. So if there aren't any questions and you know which 2 organizations you're going to raise your hand for, we will start with, let's go in reverse order. Amistad, hands in the air. And I will also vocalize that Ariel would like to vote for Amistad. And so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes total. Joy, are you tracking those votes? Thanks so much. Second is Bridge House, hands in the air. I will also proxy for Ariel for Bridge House. And so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sarah, that's not a hand, correct? Thank you. And so that's 5 for Bridge House. And next up is Boulder County branch of the NAACP, hands in the air. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. Woohoo, which means we have a tie between Bridge House and the Boulder County branch of the NAACP, which we had not prepared for. I think in this case, then we're going to narrow it down to those two. And so we each get one vote. So what we can confirm then is Amistad is one of our nonprofit organizations. Very excited. So we can check that off. So now I'll just give you a second to think about it. But we will do a second ballot then for Boulder County branch of the NAACP and Bridge House. Everyone gets one vote. Yeah, Sarah, you have a question?
Am I allowed to speak on behalf of what I, maybe pitch one over the other? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, that's, why don't we just assign it a time? Let's take 5 minutes just to talk. Yeah.
I just need 20 seconds. So I didn't actually want to vote for the NAACP, but I think it's important to vote for the NAACP. For those of you who have been around for a long time, they push our buttons and they challenge us on purpose. So while I was not happy when they were really engaging, I still think we need somebody engaging that hard to ensure that folks that they represent are being heard. So that's it.
I can give some background too. So Bridge House, Amistad was a volunteer last year, but was not appointed to the selection committee. I believe this is Bridge House's first time volunteering with us. And then the Boulder County branch of the NAACP did participate, was part of the selection committee the last go around for all of us. Martha, I saw your hand next.
I think it's important to attempt to regain our working relationship with the NAACP, especially because of the way that article that came out mischaracterized what actually happened with the voting decision. And we have many affected people of color. There's even been some of the contentious decisions in some of the review items concerning people of color. So I think their lens is very specific and valuable. And that's all. That's why I'm voting for them.
Thank you, Martha. Victor, I have your hand up next in here.
Yeah, I would just say based on the impact for the people in Boulder County, the Boulder NAACP has been here since 2017. The Bridge House has been here long before that. It used to be a small building in a church in a parking lot that serves so many people. They really connect to a voice. They're doing real work in Boulder, also in Aurora as well, really affecting these same populations in a more tangible way. Speaking of Sammy Lawrence, right? He was supported by that community as well. So it wasn't just the NAACP that supported Sammy Lawrence, but also this homeless community, and Bridge House is part of that safety net. And for them to engage in this way is different than just handing out blankets. So I'm glad to see them willing to sort of step forth.
Thank you, Victor. Taisha, I saw your hand go up but come down, so I just wanted to double check with you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And just really resonating with the comments that both Sarah and Martha shared regarding the NAACP. And at the same time, really also thank you, Victor, for just sharing a little bit more. And it was also helpful to know, I think there is value in having a group that has been through the process before on the selection committee. I love that Amistad put their hat in the ring last year and weren't able to make it, but had already expressed interest and now wanted to do it again. I like the precedence that it sets for other organizations that, you do once and say you don't get it, then keep trying. And so just wanted to lift up those thoughts as well. Thank you.
Any other final thoughts or questions? Yeah, Hadassah, I see you.
Just I hate this. I wish we could have all three, because honestly, like it feels like it would be the complete trifecta. It would be amazing. It would be amazing. But yeah, I think that the value of having an organization that has helped us and has been through this process before, I think is, for me personally, too much to pass up. And I really hope that the Bridge House, you know, is ready to do it again, because we're gonna need to do it again. So yeah, that's all.
Is there an opportunity to maybe get them all and remove some panelist slots to the selection
No, the
committee?
ordinance is very specific to
Okay.
nonprofit organizations and to panelists. Yeah.
I just had a question though. It doesn't prohibit us from having 3 or more. It just says at least 2, right? I mean, I'm just curious
No,
if there's.
I can double check, but when
Yeah.
we met and looked at it, it was specifically 2 and 2. But give me 1 second just to triple check.
No, I mean, I'm sure that that's what it says, but my question was, it doesn't prohibit us from having 3. Like, it doesn't prohibit us from we can even go to city council and say, hey, we have 3 really strong candidates that are representing 3 communities that are heavily influenced by the work that we are doing. Can we add on it? It doesn't hurt them, and it, again, it lets them. This is the first time they've ever even, legislated or regulated something like this oversight panel. So again, similarly to us having to expand the council, the panel from 9 members to 11, they didn't anticipate how much this was going to be, or the transitions, and so to have more panelists is really going to help us. They were very amenable to that. They meet every other week. I'm just curious, as others have indicated, it really is a beautiful intersection, and I would hate to lose that perspective because we, I like the 3. It's an odd number. It's and again, this is where we are right now. So, that would be my hope. So maybe it's votes. I'm happy also and understanding we're on a tight timeline. So if we have to vote tonight with the contingency, if we are allowed to add a 3rd, that's great. But if not, we can at least move forward and get, the things that we need to get done tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, so our ordinance is later selection committees shall be composed of 2 members of the police oversight panel and representatives from 2 local nonprofits selected by the police oversight panel. And so it is specifically 2. I'll say, to add panel members, that was a 6-month process to accomplish. Even if, I think city council doesn't meet, we'd have to get on their docket probably for their October meeting. So that would set us, we would not meet so that proposal would mean we would set back recruitment to next year.
Okay.
Then we'd run into the holiday.
Yeah, but
I understand.
here's a spicy question, and I'm leaning on our spicy friend in the NAACP who gave us about the word shall versus something else. It doesn't say maximum 2. It says 2, and that is not a cap. Can we just go rogue and invite them all? What are they going to do?
Well,
I mean, I just would love to get a lawyer to get some legal advice on it. I mean, I understand that we have to make a decision today, and I'm fine with that, but I'm just wondering if we could have legal take a look and weigh in. And if they say, hey, yes, that is, there's nothing that prohibits you from inviting another organization from participating, perhaps they don't get a vote in the say, but they could be a part of the deliberations, right? There's a lot of ways that we can be flexible and adapt and still get that expertise and input without disrupting the timeline. Thank you.
Yeah, Chico, I see your hand.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at, I think everyone has looked talked about the tight timelines, and if we are going to look at 3 or more, or 2 or more, we can leave that to next year and explore that for next time around. I mean, this is a learning curve, so we know that we have more people who are interested in coming on board. So maybe we can kick the can down the road and explore it for next year.
Yeah, because I think the advisement is if we try to test the limits of the law, yeah, we might be fine. If we're not, it challenges the legitimacy of anyone who's selected by that selection committee, or participates on that committee, or us, who is appointed to follow the rule of the ordinance. And so I think that's, if it is a serious consideration, I think we want to do it right, so that it does not become a challenge to our legitimacy or the public trust that we are going to follow the law. Because it is 2, it's not 3, it's not more than 2, it's not up to 2, it's not less than 2. It is specifically shall be composed of 2. And I think that's pretty specific. I'm no lawyer, but I can't imagine there isn't a lawyer who couldn't build a case on us choosing 3 and not 2.
It used the word shall.
Sorry, say that again.
And it shall be 2. I mean, that's different than it just saying 2. If it says shall be composed of 2.
Shall be composed of 2 members of the police oversight panel and representatives from 2 local nonprofits selected by the police oversight panel.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Then let's not go rogue. We don't have time to get it redone. We gotta vote.
Yeah.
We can totally table it for a future, something to make a potential amendment to add a 3rd, especially because uneven numbers cause problems.
Exactly.
In voting items anyway.
I think part of that was something I can tell you, Joey, Ariel, and I talked about as well, as the challenge of the even number. I think part of the advantage of even numbers is it forces consensus. There isn't a tiebreaker. The group has to come to a decision. And so I think that's one advantage, but that's not to discuss how incredibly challenging that's going to become when it's time to make those deliberations.
It pressurizes consensus.
Exactly. Boom, boom, boom. So going back, so to return to, I lost my page, sorry. Our vote between Boulder County branch of the NAACP and Bridge House. Any final thoughts or questions before we hold that vote? I'm checking the chat. Thank you. Cool beans. So hands up, and again, I will be proxying for Ariel tonight. Those in favor, hands up. Boulder County, or let's start with Boulder County branch of the NAACP, hands up. And I see, thank you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then hands up for Bridge House, 1 proxy for Ariel and Sarah, that's 3. Thank you very much. So our 2 nonprofit organizations are going to be the Boulder County branch of the NAACP and Amistad. And so next steps, we'll be reaching out to them to identify the member who will represent. Panel members, remember, you have until tomorrow to volunteer to serve on the selection committee. And so please get on that, or I will be coming to find you. And then Ariel and I will be following up with an email for all of us to vote on which panel members will serve on the selection committee. And I see, Taisha, I see your hand.
Yes, unfortunately, I have a meeting conflict and will need to jump off the call, but was trying to make sure that I was present for this vote. Our co-chair for the communications committee, Victor, is ready to provide our update and to gather feedback and other things. So I apologize, but thank you so much. And I'm excited to work with Mossad and the NAACP of Boulder County for the selection committee. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. Coming back to our agenda. Boom, yay. So next up then are hair of our hair of our chin. So first up, committee to report from Community Engagement and Communications Committee. I will hand it over to, or actually, you know what? Should we go ahead and take our 5-minute break now? It is 7:34. And I see tired eyes. Why don't we go ahead and take 5? Let's be back by 7:39, please. Thank you. maybe didn't hear. Yeah, Victor, we'll go ahead and start with an update from the Community Engagement and Communications Committee from y'all.
Just let me share my. Can you allow me to share my screen, or can you share the? Thanks, everyone can see that.
Yeah, thanks, Victor.
Okay, 1 sec. Okay, so just and we'll email this out later, but just for time, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the highlights. So we have our panel recruitment calendar. We've already approved that, but that is there again. What we really need for now is these two. So we have the fall community engagement event. We have a draft plan for that event. So if you want to give feedback on the draft plan, please do that soon. And I'll go over that later. And the draft plan is for our community outreach event. So we still need some people to respond on some of the dates that we have listed. And we did choose a couple of dates and some proposed options. So we do have this date of Thursday, September 22nd, from the time to 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. If you are available, please email myself or Taisha to see if we can add some more to that list. We're looking at the public library for this one. We have a contact there. We have a meeting space. It's a central location. There's parking, there's security, there's restrooms, and our costs will be covered for using that facility. We have a timeline of 1 hour for that event. So making some time for a mix and mingle in the first 20 minutes or 15 minutes, creating a statement where we just have a brief intro or overview of the police oversight panel and presenting that out as like maybe a two slide presentation or one pager, and then having 10 minutes for discussion on Q&A, and then 20 minutes for just open discussion from anyone from the audience. And then in closing, talking about ways that people can become a panelist and how to apply, how to come to one of our committee meetings, talking about sharing the information on where you can find our monthly meetings, and also advertising our quarterly meetings with the chief. Also during these public meetings as we wrap up, continue to give people ways to engage with us. Also in this meeting, we want to create some like collateral, so like having a one pager, maybe having some sort of pamphlet. You're also going to need sort of name tags and a sign-in sheet. The budget concerns, I don't know if food or beverages can be, there's a budget for food or beverages. That was a direct ask from Taisha. Going forward, if there's a way to provide childcare or anything that the city can provide for childcare or youth activities, that'd be awesome. And again, thinking of locations for accessibility, being able to provide this in Spanish or having interpreters, and then just the use of technology. So is there anyone who is able to add to that Thursday, September 22nd in-person event? Or does anyone have suggestions on the proposed in-person program?
Victor, let me look at my calendar. That sounds interesting, and I may be able to attend. I'll get back to you.
Again, we'll send this out just, for anyone, any additional feedback. But that's all I have.
Victor, of course, I'll be available, and the various requests that were raised in terms of food, that's absolutely doable. Childcare, I think that could be doable. I think I've heard of other departments when they've had meetings in the evenings, like having someone to provide some sort of a space for children where they can watch people's kids when they come to the event. So I think that should be doable. What was the third one? The third specific request?
Interpreters for
Interpreters. That should be doable as well. And yeah, any costs associated with renting the space, that'll be taken care of as well. So I'll be working on that if you all end up holding this.
Awesome sauce. In that case, then I will hand it over to Hadassah for governance committee.
Just for clarification,
Hey, Joey.
was there any that event, that outreach event is definitely happening, or were you all going to take a vote on that or anything, or should I just understand that that's happening and start the preparations for it?
You know, maybe that is something we should. I don't think we need to take a vote on the event itself as an event, and y'all happy to hear thoughts on that and any precedent that might set. But maybe we do need to take a vote on the budget. Would probably be sound for us to make sure, just to give a thumbs up to spend the panel budget on this.
Authorize it, yeah.
Yeah, to authorize it. And so maybe what that is, we probably should get a number on that before we take that vote, though. And that's not to say that we wouldn't vote for or against it, but just to make sure, for full disclosure, that we're voting for the full budget amount. Any thoughts on that? Hadassah, I'm also looking at you. Like governance wise, does that make sense that we vote on the budget, or should we vote on the whole event?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we haven't really voted on any budget things.
I know, right?
At all. And so I don't know. I don't know if I want to set that precedent personally. I mean, I can see voting on whether or not we want to have the event, but I think the reality is that we assigned the committee to do that work, and they've done that work beautifully for us. So I those are my feelings.
I'm writing those feelings. I think that makes total sense. Any other thoughts?
I mean, I think it's been over a year and we haven't had one, so we need one.
I know, right?
So I'm all for it. Depending on what it is, will depend on if I can go, but yeah, I think we need to, and as quick as possible.
Got it. I think in that case, then, Joey and Victor, and we can reiterate Taisha, is maybe just to loop in the co-chairs on any budget emails, just to have us in the loop on those, just for due diligence, in case anything should come up, so we just know what's going on. But yeah, Hadassah, I'm with you, is that we've given the committee the power to do these things. So let's power made, power done.
All right, I'll take that as a authorization to get planning on it. And we can include that in our press release that'll come out early next week when we announce the application process too, so people will know that's coming.
Exactly. Thank you, Joey. Yeah.
I'll be thinking of some other ways to advertise for it to get people out, but you all spread it amongst your networks too, to invite people to come.
And okay, in that case, if there are any other thoughts with community engagement and communications, then I will hand it over to Hadassah for governance.
Thank you. Okay, so there were things that we had planned on proposing for voting, which have since changed a lot. So we are not ready to vote on, i.e. the guiding principles. And so we will continue to work on those. And we'll have depending on what the plan is for the October meeting, we will either present the guiding principles at that October meeting, or we will have them posted or available first to the panel for draft approval, and then we would post it to the public for any comment, and then make a final draft approval at the month after that. So that is the process that we're looking at. That is where we are. Depending on timing, it'll either be something we discuss or something we make available, and then move forward from there. So that's where we are with those. The orientation and training piece, I will let, so Martha and I are going to the training this week, or sorry, this upcoming week. And so that will give us a lot of resources, and we will continue working on those. And so having a deadline in terms of when we are planning on onboarding and all of that is very, very helpful. And we will make sure to take that into consideration for sure. So basically we'll look at, gathering the tools that we have so far, what we used. At some point, we'll definitely look for some input from people in terms of what they feel they would like more training on as panelists, or feel that they're lacking training on. And then we can kind of go from there. So yeah, and then I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. No public, nothing else for governance. Martha, am I forgetting anything? Okay.
Awesome. I will hand it over then to Martha then for Legacy Committee.
Well, we didn't meet last month because we all went to the screening. Well, some of us went to the screening. This is not who we are. And that was a great reason to not go. But we have received the data. I totally have not looked at it, but fully intend to look at it the week while I'm out, since I won't be doing things. I did have a question of how you wanted us to collect information, where, if you wanted us to stick it in a particular place from when we are at the Nicole event. And I am in the process of talking to panel members individually about kind of an action/training model project based on the movie and the contents. So just stay tuned for that. But other than that, we are supposed to be meeting the 4th Thursday of every month. So the next one will be the 22nd.
And Martha, in regards to your question about the materials you get from the conference and sort of where to put them, what they usually do at this conference is hand out a flash drive with all of the presentations, any sort of handouts, any kind of training. So it's a really valuable flash drive. I want to say last year they had got a little more advanced where we had it available online, but then you could request, I think, the flash drive if you specifically wanted it all on a flash drive. But that's sort of the best way to get it all in one place. And then we could just take that and put it on the share drive essentially, so everybody has access to it. But you should all, you all will be attending a number of different panels. There's usually 3 panels going on at once. So you'll kind of divvy up your time to cover as much as you can, take your own notes, and then bring those back as well. And you can kind of supplement all the other materials you get with your own presentation of sort of what your impressions of things were, what things jumped out at you, and what new ideas were sparked from listening to people. So it'll be a lot to bring home and share with everyone. But I think Hadassah's suggestion or point about taking a lot of that content and using that to think about what goes into the orientation process for new panel members, that's really smart. So we want to make sure we collect all that information for that purpose too. So I'm super happy that y'all are going to be going.
Yeah, one other kind of question. So, I mean, we can make this decision, but I figured we'd get some input from the, or I would like some input from the panel, just because, you know, I am representing you. And so there are a couple of topics, like there's 4 different topics. There's specifically police oversight, and then there's jail oversight. And some of the time, you know, there's oftentimes we're picking between those 2. And so I guess my question, you know, I would like to go to all of them, and I feel like we should go to all of them, but I'm also wondering if we should focus specifically on police oversight, because that is our purpose, and then, you know, topics related to that, or if thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good question.
My thoughts are this: you're going, you're taking your time. I trust your judgment in picking the right sessions in both your judgment and your interests. Come back with more, be smarter than us and come back.
I would say since the jail is run by the sheriff's department and they haven't made any agreements for oversight kind of stuff, that the police stuff would be better.
I was going to mention to Martha and Hadassah, to both your questions. I wonder if even maybe if y'all are up for it, I mean, not to just foist it on you, of giving a presentation to the panel, you know, and you know, it could be short enough to fit into a monthly meeting, or long enough that we treat it as a new training session. You know, we haven't done we talked about it, doing like internal training sessions of training each other on topics. And so that might be a good kickoff. Again, that's a big weight to put on y'all, but maybe something to think about, and maybe even something to, we could, you know, to kick off with our new panel members in January, to also give you time and space, along with everything else, to, yeah, some kind of training / presentation.
Yeah, I'm definitely envisioning we can do that. We can, I would guess probably like booking a little short training session afterwards, you know, probably a little bit more of like here's a little thing of what we learned, and then we can kind of talk about different things. But yeah, I'm sure that there will be enough information that we will learn just based on the topics that they're covering, that we would like to have probably some dedicated time to discuss.
The other thing I'd say about the conference, the other valuable thing about this conference, it's not just the content of the material you get, but it's also really key as a networking opportunity to meet other oversight volunteers and practitioners all over the country and connect with them, exchange contact information. And when you have issues come up in the future, you have people around the country to connect with and have the conversation with. So just encourage you to both meet as many people as you can as well.
Cool beans. So 8 o'clock. So moving right along, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Joey for our monitors report.
All right, thank you, Chair. Let me get my screen pulled up here. All right. So as you can see, since our last meeting, we had 2 full case file reviews, the panel did. The department has provided responses or concluded those and come to determination on both of those. So we don't have any cases that the panel has made a recommendation on that are still sitting with the department right now. We do have 4 cases that are waiting panel review. We hit a little bit of a roadblock with our last big case review that most of you were on. Separate from that one, we have 3 others that are ready to go. So depending on when we get that big one rescheduled, if that's rescheduled like next week or within the next week or so, that'll just be our next one. But if it ends up being scheduled 2 weeks from now, I may try to work in 1 or 2 of the other cases that are awaiting, just so we don't get too far behind. But let's get a date for the review of that big case. So we had these 2 cases, as I said, completed over the course of the past month. MI 2022-001, MI 22-013. 010, this was the Rule 5 Police Authority and Public Trust. This involved a trespass suspect being identified, or someone who had called in to 911, reporting someone trespassing in a motor of a vehicle, trying to get into a vehicle. The police arrive on the scene, question someone who somewhat matched the description, but the clothing didn't. And so there was some question and discussion around that aspect of it. But ultimately, it was determined that that individual had just gotten off of work. He was not the suspect. They were able to confirm that through talking to the manager, despite the fact that, this was interesting, despite the fact that the person who reported it, actually, they did a show-up identification, and this individual identified the person, said he was 100% sure. There was some concerns there, though, because that person was perhaps intoxicated. So the officers didn't trust the identification and did further investigation, ultimately concluded that this was not the suspect. The individual's boss ended up filing a complaint alleging that the stop was due to the individual who stops last name being Hispanic, and that the stop was complaining that the stop was 2 hours. The stop was actually about 37 minutes. But anyway, that was the case. The panel, by 2-to-1 vote, exonerated the officer on the Rule 5 allegation, and the department's determination was also exonerated. On 013, this was a traffic accident between an African-American woman and a white woman. The accident report specialist, that's a non-sworn personnel, they're not sworn police officer, but they are employees of the police department. He does not give tickets to the white female driver who was at fault. The black female driver made the statement, I guess it depends on who you are. And the ARS responded, yep. And that was the end of the interaction. So obviously that was some concern there about whether the officer just acknowledged making a biased decision. In the interview, the officer indicated that he thought he meant what he thought she meant was, it depends what officer you get, and he thought she was referring to like the officer's discretion to decide whether or not to issue tickets, and so that's what he was responding to when he said yep. So there were 2 allegations there: the unbiased policing and the traffic accident response, essentially the failure to issue the tickets. The panel recommended not sustaining on the essentially the biased policing allegation, and they recommended to sustain on the traffic accident response, the failure to issue the tickets. The investigation did demonstrate that this officer had a history of not getting tickets when he was supposed to, in a variety of different circumstances with a variety of different people. But the department agreed with the panel, or the chief agreed with the panel, did not sustain the biased policing, but did sustain the traffic accident response. The panel recommended a 1-day suspension. The chief went with a 5-year letter of reprimand and with a performance improvement plan for the officer. That's where we ended up on those. So in the month of August, we just had 1 complaint. It was a regular misconduct complaint. You have that to review tonight to vote on whether to do a full case file review. I would just point out that this is one of our lowest numbers in terms of complaints coming in, monthly numbers. not totally surprising. What we saw in terms of the pattern of complaint, the trend in the complaint numbers, is something that I've seen consistent in a variety of different jurisdictions. Right after the holidays in January, February, we see a spike, and we saw that here in Boulder. And then at the beginning of the summer, we see a spike, and we saw that in I think May and June, we saw a spike in our numbers here. But then towards the end of the summer, you often will see a drop off in the number of complaints. So not sure fully why that happens. I think there's probably a lot of different explanations for that, but I have noticed that pattern consistently in a number of different jurisdictions, those sort of ups and downs of complaints. It probably has something to do with school being let out and school being going back in, and maybe after the holidays, there may be more confrontations that occur. But we did have 4 inquiries in August. So far in September, no complaints or community inquiries, but it's been a short month in the sense of the fact that it was a holiday, started off with a holiday. Currently 7 open cases. Chair, that concludes my the monitor's report. Nope, you're still muted, Daniel.
I'd rather just sit here and talk to my plants. Yes, thank you, Joey. Panel members, next up is our selection of cases to review, or case. It's not just the one this week. So Joey sent that. Oh, sorry, Martha, I see your hand.
I just had a quick question about the second one. Because I just wanted to make sure that the recommendation that I gave, that we needed the data, not only on like how many people who didn't get a ticket broken up by race, but we needed the data on the people that did get a ticket and having that broken up on race to determine whether or not it was racial. I didn't see that captured on there. Like, we need the flip side to be able to determine that. And the way that looks, it looks like it just a flat out no racism happened.
Joey, you're muted. I gotcha.
Set a trend there, Daniel. So just to understand what you're requesting, some tracking of individuals who were contacted but did not.
Yeah, it looks like the information we were given is the people who didn't get a ticket, did not get a ticket, and how that was broken up by race. But we would need the people who did get a ticket and how that was broken up by race to fully get a comprehensive view of whether or not racism occurred.
I think I understand. Yeah. So in the spreadsheet, we have whoever got tickets or didn't get tickets or went to juvenile court or adult court or whatever the outcome was. The majority of them did not get tickets. So it may, if you looked at it, it may have looked like there wasn't anyone in that list with tickets, but there were some of those in that spreadsheet where they received the violation. And they were a minority. I think it was, I don't remember the exact number, but it was a smaller number who actually received the violations. I'll have to take another look at it. Was there a column for race for that on that spreadsheet?
There was for the accident one. Like I'm talking about the accident one. That one didn't have any information about juveniles. The accident one, we would.
Oh, the accident one. Okay, yeah.
We didn't have anything on people who did get tickets, and I feel like, and I stated that to give an answer, we need that information as well. Not only who didn't get a ticket, but who did get a ticket.
Okay.
So if you pull over 5 Black people and all 5 Black people get a ticket, that's an issue to me.
Right. And if discretion is exercised for 5 other people and they're all white, then yeah, that's
right.
That's the problem. Yeah. Let me take another look at that spreadsheet. I wasn't looking at it with that question in mind. Let me take another look at it and then connect with you offline, and we'll figure out a way to get at that.
Okay. And if it's not captured, I think we need to capture it.
That would be our recommendation, is to capture that. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Martha.
Okay, panelists. So we are looking at case MI 2022-021. And oh, sorry, I skipped a step. So for any members of the public who view after, tonight, since we don't have anyone online right now. Just a reminder that these are case summaries and not complaint summaries. So these are full summaries of anything currently related to a complaint. So that could be police camera footage, available evidence, initial investigations, any other complaints or extenuating circumstances. So we're not just reviewing a summary of the complaint itself. We're looking at the big picture. And also this is a private process. We need to protect those involved. And so as you saw just now with Joey, is once we've reached conclusion in these investigations and these discipline recommendations, then we read those out in our public meetings. But right now we will not share the information of that case. So panelists, looking at case MI 2022-021, this is 2 allegations of a Rule 1 violation, specifically customer service value and report writing. I'll give you a second just to refamiliarate yourselves. And then panelists, if you want to put a hand up to vote for doing a full review of this case. Hands in the air for. Thank you. I see 1, I see 2, I see 3. Thank you. And then next up, those who do not want to review, hands up. That's 1, that's 2. Victor, are you for or against?
I wanted to vote to review.
To review, boom, then that's 4-3. So we will review this case. And that's the only one this month. Whew, easy. Next up, we're just gonna double check. We do not have any members of the public, so normally we would do public comment, but we won't. So for now then, before we move, any other business panel before the public, before we move into executive session? Cool. All right, Joey, if you want to stop the recording then, easy as that, and then shut down public access.